It's not on, now it is. It's a little past 8:30. Let's call this meeting to order. Thanks for joining us on this beautiful spring day. Spring has finally arrived. Our first item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment? Seeing none, that brings us to our next item, the approval of the minutes. Hope you all had a chance to review that. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Moved?
Support.
Supported? Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is from our prosecutor's office. We are joined here today by Prosecutor Chris Becker. He has his performance measurement report.
Thank you. I got it all plugged in here, so I appreciate the time to talk to you about this. And I guess I'll start out, 2021 was a little bit difficult still for the court system, as it was for everybody in terms of what was going on. But, I started off here by saying we still try to do community engagement, because I think that's one of the biggest things we're trying to do in terms of with the community in terms of what we're doing, how we're doing it. So you see some pictures here in terms of what we did in terms of in the upper left-hand corner, at least. It should be the same as yours. We did a park event up north in terms of helping just, refurbish some picnic tables. In the middle there, you'll see it's our Crime Victims' Rights Week, and we had an event out by 63rd District Court, and I'll get back to that earlier because another one's coming up because Crime Victims' Rights Week is at the end of this month, and there's another event. You'll see over there, everybody's wearing blue. April's a big month for crime victims. It's Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and so wearing blue. It's going to be April 28th, I think, this year. I think it's the same day as Earth Day, wearing blue for sexual assault victims. And so it's just a simple way to kind of show solidarity, and that's something we got for the office. We take pictures there. And then the bottom left is National Night Out, which happens in August, and that's all obviously a big event because police and our office, we tried to hit, I think we hit 5 events this year across the county. This one specifically was at the Mary Free Bed Y. But we also hit downtown, Rockford, Kentwood, and there's another John Ball Neighborhood Association. So that's just stuff we try and do to get out in the community because I think there's so much in terms of everybody watches Law and Order and thinks they know what the prosecutor's office is all about, and that's not necessarily the case. So we try and get out and engage the community on different levels and different ways than just seeing people in the court system. But looking at, trying to get down to the nitty gritty in terms of what your priorities are, I kind of focus on 2 specific ones. The first one here is priority 3, innovative ways to deliver services that maximize efficiency and provide an exceptional experience to those we serve. Kind of a simple one, paperless. Now that doesn't seem to be too exciting, I guess, but we truly appreciate the capital improvement project that the commission approved. I think it was 2 years ago now. We officially went paperless December of 2020. It was kind of like ripping the Band-Aid off. I don't know if we were fully ready, but we did it anyways. But it's been tremendously helpful in terms of how we operate our systems, especially during the last spike, the end of 2021. This gives, everything is on our computers. It used to be, we had paper files and we were bringing people in the office. You had to grab your files, you go to court, and it was, people were in the office. Now it's all on our computers. So if we miss a file at court, we have settlement conferences. Oh, that didn't get on our docket or something like that. We're able to just look it up in the computer. We don't have to say, okay, adjourn it, come back because we don't know what's going on. I can look up just about any file in our office to see what's going on and be able to make a note on it. Everybody's got the same notes. Everybody's working on it. We don't have to bring people on weekends. They can do weekend warrants from their home. So obviously with the latest COVID spike, it was tremendously beneficial. We allowed people to work at home and do everything, writing warrants, engaging with their files, talking with defense attorneys virtually through the system. And I think it's going to ultimately save us money in terms of, we don't have to buy paper. You should see here, we still got huge file cabinets. We got the old file cabinets where you hit the button and you got to rotate, but those are getting smaller and smaller now because we've committed to go everything paperless. So it's been a tremendous benefit, and once again, I appreciate the commission approving that capital improvement because I think it's done a tremendous job in terms of helping us serve the citizens of Kent County. I kind of did this last year, but this is the most updated annual prosecution survey. Sorry, I couldn't get it any bigger. I know I got to use my glasses to get in there. But this is something that's put out by the Prosecuting Attorneys Association of Michigan. And it kind of goes through, ranking the population, number of APAs, kind of giving a general overview of every single office. And I use that, once again, in terms of efficiencies when you look at Kent County and breaking it down. The one way I did it, when you look at APAs, you divide APAs by population. And you look at Wayne, they have like 214 APAs, but that's one APA per 8,000 people about, okay, in the county. We essentially have the highest number of APAs. If you look at comparing the major counties, we have 1 APA for 18,000 people. And that's well beyond, as you can see, for Hingham, Genesee, Oakland, Macomb. These are kind of comparably situated in terms of how we provide services. You know, Kent County is growing, and we have not essentially grown our office since 2010. That's about the last time. We've been kind of stuck on the number of APAs. So I think in terms of providing efficiency, and we cover everything, we do a nice job. It's not like we're missing court hearings. We're not missing anything. We're providing a great service with less, if you will. Another way to look at it is, you know, indigent defense. I know that's been one of the things on your agenda in terms of indigent defense and trying to provide indigent defense, which is, you know, I support. I think everybody wants a good indigent defense because we don't want cases getting overturned in the Court of Appeals, making our victims go through a trial 3, 4, 5 years down the road. That's traumatic for them. It's difficult for the system, quite frankly, because we've got enough cases coming in right now to, okay, you got to redo one from 5 years ago. Well, I look there in the red there, the caseload levels for the defenders says 150 felonies or 400 non-traffic misdemeanors per attorney per year. That's the standards that they have set from indigent defense. When you look at our numbers, for example, in our district courts right now, I have 1 APA. I have 1 APA responsible for Kentwood, Wyoming, Granville, and Walker, 4 district courts. There's about, I looked at the pre-trial conferences, that's about 1,000 cases that 1 APA is doing, just misdemeanor cases in those 4 courts. We now, I mean, up until indigent defense, they didn't have any assigned. Now there's 4 defenders assigned to those courts to my 1 APA. So that's you know, and I think once again we're staying on top of things, but that puts an additional strain. There's a lot more trials, there's a lot more motions, there's a lot more stress on that 1 APA. I think 1 week, just a few weeks ago, she just hired her. She was an intern, but she had 4 jury trials in 5 days. That's a lot, you know, in different courts. Kentwood, Wyoming, on 3 different courts, but they all had a jury trial in 1 week, and it was a unique week. But we're seeing stuff like that happen a lot more. So that's just one example. Another example in our felonies. These are our serious cases. When you look at our circuit court judges, these are our circuit court judges assigned to civil criminal docket. We have 2 attorneys assigned to each judge. That's their caseload. You see Judge Rossi's got 79. Each attorney's assigned 79 cases. Judge Rossi's our only part-time judge. Okay, he only does half the time. He also does family law neglect. You look at the rest of them. When you think of 150 was the indigent defense levels, just about every single one of my APAs has over that number in terms of assigned cases to them. And, you know, I think victims have as much right to good representation as defendants do as well. And so when you look at that numbers, those are high numbers that we're dealing with, and we're dealing with it well. We're still having success. Once again, we're not missing, you know, I don't think you're going to hear complaints from the circuit court judges saying, hey, we're missing things, we're not on top of things. They're staying on top of it. We have a very dedicated staff. We have a staff that's been around for a long time, so they're able to handle those numbers, but it puts a lot of stress. And with the backups in COVID, we're dealing with a lot going on right now. And this, once again, on top of all, that's just the normal docket. These are our sobriety, you know, the treatment courts, and we're very supportive of the treatment courts. We've started a couple of these in terms of the YSOTP is something that's just in Kent County. It's Young Sexual Offender Treatment Program. That's only in Kent County. We did this with, you know, Representative LeGrand is one of the biggest proponents of it, and I appreciate his support for that. But this is something that we just do in Kent County that we're working with other providers, the courts, in terms of trying to do young, you know, 17-year-olds, 18, 20-year-olds who are getting involved in sexual offenses, trying to get them to treatment. You know, consensual sex between a 17 and 15-year-old can be, 18 now because we raised the age, can be a prison sentence for a 17-year-old having a completely consensual sexual event. I don't think that's good for anybody in terms of staying in prison. Get them treatment, get them the help, get them a conviction. We're convicting them. It's not like we're just dismissing it, but we're getting them something in the treatment to make them a productive member of society. But all these other courts take time away from the normal docket. You know, sobriety court, you still have to go and sit down and meet and review cases, and we are the gatekeepers for all these courts, whether it be mental health, our veterans court, we decide whether cases go in or out. That takes time away from the other docket that we have to assign these prosecutors to. So we're doing a lot more. I mean, these courts didn't exist 10 years ago, and we're doing a lot more with about the same number of attorneys. So we're providing a pretty efficient service, in my view, in terms of what we're doing. On top of that, what we're still doing in terms of doing an excellent job, Alex Grimes right there, Mothers Against Drunk Driving gave him the David M. Schieber Award, which is very special for us because if you don't know, David Schieber was a Kent County Assistant Prosecutor. He died of cancer, probably a decade ago now, but he was one of the premier prosecutors for drunk driving cases. They named the award after him in terms of for people who provide exceptional service in drunk driving, impaired driving cases, and we had one of our APAs win that award with everything going on this year. So that's, it just goes to show that we are doing a heck of a job, even with all the things that are going on in the office. The priority 2, fostering a high quality of a life that promotes safe, healthy communities, strategic growth, and world-class outdoor resources. Okay, I can't really do anything about the last one. I mean, I got outdoor resources not outside my docket, if you will. But this just give you an idea. Obviously, courts shut down. We shut down in March of 2020. We did not have another jury trial until August of 2021, and even then we kind of started up slow. And then we had another shutdown between Martin Luther King Day this year and March 7th. So, but you look at the docket, in 2020 we're essentially unbeaten, and these are felony cases. And then in 2021 we're 24-3. And you look at these, 5 CSC first, 9 murders, 1 armed robbery. These are serious cases. These are violent cases in terms of providing safety. We can talk about treatment courts, and I'm all for trying to help people, the drug people who are addicted. But you get to violent crime, there's not a whole lot of treatment, if you will, and there's, we got to send people to prison, and we've done that in terms of, CSC 1 is a life offense. That's a violent rape or a child molestation, somebody under 12 years old. Carjacking is, you grab somebody out of their car at gunpoint usually. These are violent crimes that we're taking a stand on. We're convicting people even through all this. We've had a tremendous amount of success in jury trials when we try cases like this. And in terms of 2 of the verdicts we've had, these are 2 examples of providing a safe community. We had a mom up north that her and her husband essentially starved their baby to death. She was 18 months old. I mean, some of the pictures I saw were, it looked like a baby that came out of Auschwitz. I mean, it was a horrible case, and we tag teamed, if you will. We had 1 APA from our juvenile side do come in from the neglect aspect, and then we have an APA handling that case. It was a 2-week trial that we were successfully getting conviction on a baby death. Those are, something we can say. It was a felony murder for child abuse. The other one, 2019, that shows you the backup we're dealing with. This is a 2019 case of the shooting down after the fireworks down by the fish ladder. There's still other cases. Out of that case, that was just 1 defendant, but we got a successful conviction. And in terms of, I've been at these meetings where you guys talk about the Downtown Development Authority and, trying to get people downtown and businesses. If you have shootings at fireworks, that is not, conducive of people wanting to come downtown. We are holding people accountable, even though it takes a while. We're doing stuff like that in terms of these cases to try and make sure Kent County is a safe place so people can come downtown and spend their money and support the businesses down here. Juvenile, I always try and focus a little bit more on each division. Everybody kind of focuses on our criminal division, but we do have a juvenile division. We did start our juvenile treatment and support court, a mental health court for juvenile offenders. And what that does is you kind of take a juvenile offender that may have mental health issues, and if their criminal behavior is because of mental health issues, we can get them into a juvenile treatment court. That started just in the last year. There's been 50 active referrals during that period of time with 23 participants, and I think next one is we just had our first graduation in March. So we're getting people into that. It takes time, and then, once again, that's a tremendous amount of resources it gives. It's not just putting on probation in your mental health court. This is something you bring them in weekly, bi-weekly. Sometimes probation, normal probation, you report once a month, once every 2 months. This is they're reporting weekly, they're reporting every other week. And are you on your meds? Are you going to treatment? What are you doing? And if they, maybe screwing up and not showing up or not going to treatment, they can be incarcerated. They can increase their penalties, if you will, and ultimately get terminated if they don't follow through in the program. But it's trying to get them the help they need to correct the behavior. As a prosecutor, the ideal thing was, okay, you screw up, I see you once. You come through the criminal justice system once, you correct your behavior, you go on to be a productive member of society. And that's kind of what this is geared towards, but if that doesn't work out, we'll take other steps to make sure you adhere to the criminal justice system. So juvenile mental health, we're working on right now. It's been, the juveniles are probably some of the more, they didn't stop as much. You can see there, neglect and termination. That's not a criminal matter, but we sometimes have to, remove kids from their parents. Those hearings didn't stop. They were very, very often remote, but we stayed on top of those through this whole thing. Mental incompetency hearings, so if somebody's, acting up, somebody files a petition, we have to handle those. Those didn't stop. PPO violations, those are a big thing. Domestic violence is one of the more dangerous things we deal with. PPOs are part of those. Those hearings didn't stop, so we stayed on top of those virtually, but we're still having those hearings all through the pandemic, all through 2020, all through 2021. The biggest impact we probably see is raise the age. Raise the age happened in October in terms of, as of October 1st or September 30th or what it was, 17-year-olds was an adult in Michigan. They raised the age, so now 18-year-olds. 18-year-olds are now adults, so 17-year-olds are kind of switched to the juvenile system. And you can see there the numbers in terms of what happens, 216 juvenile petitions filed in 2021. After raise the age in January, we had 340. So obviously there's going to be an increase in juvenile cases. I think we're able to handle those with the system because you start dividing that up in terms of how that actually goes through the system. It's probably 10 to 15 additional cases on a normal docket, so I think we're on top of those. But that's something we got to keep an eye on in terms of what's going to happen with those juvenile cases once we raise the age. Kids that were, necessarily going to adult court and maybe going to the Kent County Jail are now maybe in the juvenile detention system, and that's going to impact the juvenile detention system for, I know we just expanded it, but there could be increased pressure on the juvenile detention when that happens. Our family law, a lot of people don't realize our family law. We're responsible for establishing paternity and establishing child support. Okay, so we work with friend of the court, so we pass, after we establish, this is the dad, and B, this is the level of child support that person should get, we pass it along to the family court for enforcement. As you can see, we're pretty much on top of things. From 13, when a case gets referred, 98% of our cases from the Office of Child Support, we get those in, we're on them, making efforts to locate the non-custodial parent, NCP there. 90% of the cases we're doing that. Final establishment order, 88%. Oh. So these we're doing, we're on top of that. We exceed the federal guidelines. Federal guidelines are, we're probably, I think that's usually around the 70s, depending on the level of 70, 75%. So we're well in excess of making sure we're staying on top of establishing paternity and getting support, because that's important for the child. A good start for a child, getting them the money, getting them the support they need, and also for the dads in terms of getting them possible visitation. That's part of all this too, is getting them the visitation. So if we're on top of that, making sure the good kid has a good start in life, hopefully there's going to be better outcomes down the road, and that's what that's all geared to do. We also, during this point in time, I always appreciate Al's how you frame this in terms of DE&I. In terms of trying to take a look at the way we're doing things. We're not trying to be woke, we're trying to, hey, how are we looking at things? Everybody's got their own biases and prejudices. We did a training, procedural justice. This is something from the Prosecutor's Center for Excellence that I found. It was also based, the Chicago Police do this, and it's taking those tenets, respect, voice, neutrality, and understanding, trying to take a look at how we're doing things, how we're interacting with people, because that's one of the biggest things we do in the prosecutor's office, whether it be family division, juvenile division, criminal division. We're interacting with victims, we're interacting with defendants, we're interacting with just about anybody in the community, and how we treat them and how we respond to them. This is a tough job. We're dealing with some really bad things in office, and it's real easy to maybe get cynical, kind of beaten down, and trying to take a look at, what are our biases, what are we doing, and we talk about blind spots in this. So we did a training for the entire office, everybody, support staff, front desk, everybody, to bring them in and try and deal with it and how we're interacting with everybody to make sure we're staying on top of it and we're having appropriate interactions with the community. And so that was one of the things we're able to do. The court shut down, so it was something we could fit in when we're not having to go to court, but the office was still in during this point in time. Talking about victim witness, I talked about earlier, this is our victim witness office. I think we got one of the best in the state in terms of I think we got eight advocates who meet with victims. We couldn't work without them. I don't know how offices worked in the old days. They didn't have victim advocates, and we do right now in terms of setting up how witnesses get to court, how victims get to court, communicating when court hearings are and so forth. But one of the things they do, once again, on top of it, above and beyond, is they work with Silent Observer, and this is the candlelight prayer vigil that's going to happen on the 28th for Crime Victims' Rights Week. That's an important thing. We got to, everybody's talking about defendants' rights. Victims have rights too. It's enshrined in the Michigan Constitution, the Crime Victims' Rights Act. And so this is something to remind people, because we hear that very often. Victims are frustrated. They come in, with these delays. Well, why does the defendant have all the rights? Well, the victim has rights too. I guess people just don't know about them as much, and we try and have Crime Victims' Rights Week to kind of say, hey, this is something to commemorate, and it's usually a very nice event in terms of, people coming in. We have, there's a group that placards, pictures of people who have been murdered. That's set up all around the turnaround at 63rd District Court. It's very powerful and very moving to take a look at these people who've been murdered and killed and have their families. A lot of times the families talk and share there. So it's an open wound that doesn't go away. Even if a trial's been convicted, somebody's been convicted, it's over. They live with that. And so that's a good place for people to come together that go through a similar situation. So I'd invite you. It's open to the public. Show up. It's just it's a nice event to be at and see what's going on. So that's kind of my summary, quick summary. Didn't want to take up too much of your time, but that kind of is our 2021 summary. Any questions?
Thanks for the update and all the information. Anyone have questions or comments? Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for all your work, you and your team. With supply chain issues in the news, we can see when there's, hundreds of ships just sitting off, the coast of California, it feels like, we can't see it, but the same thing is in the court system right now. And so my questions are, how long do you think it'll take to sort all of that out? And along with that, is there anything we as members of this Board of Commissioners can do to help that process?
I think a lot of it depends on the judge, to be honest. I mean, there's certain judges that are on top, a little bit better in terms of on being with their docket. There's definitely a backup. It's hard to quantify because we're getting so many cases in at the same time. But it's going to take at least a year and a half. As you saw, we got 2019 cases. One baby death was actually a 2018 case too. There were some unique circumstances for that. But we've got quite a few more than normal 2019 cases out there. So, a year and a half would be, to maybe get caught. Happens, and each case kind of takes on. Fortunately, it's not just you can just send things through. I got a murder case that was set to go in May. We asked for another. That's no control of us, the courts. It happens. So, the one thing the commission can do, to be honest, is Amy here? I've asked for additional bodies. I think we're approaching that. And
Commissioner LeGrand.
I just wanted to get a little more detail on the juvenile mental health court. You said you had 50 referrals and 23 participants. So what accounts for the difference in those numbers? Do some people just not qualify or don't succeed in the program, or?
Yes, both. That's essentially what it is. You refer 50, some opt, parents didn't want to do it. I don't understand. Here we're saying you get this, and there's about, I think I looked 10 cases that said they didn't want to do it. Some started, dropped out because they didn't show up for counseling, didn't show up for their treatment. So it's, active is you got to want to do it, just like any court. There's sobriety court. People go in and they drop out. For the most part, I've never seen that number for a veterans court or sobriety court where people say, I just don't want to do it. For juvenile treatment court, for whatever reason, the parents seem to be a little bit more hesitant. I've never seen those type of numbers where, nope, I don't want to be involved. So that may be interesting to take a look at, because it's not just something we're doing. To take a look at statewide, is that an issue statewide, or is it something we're doing? I think we probably should dig into that a little bit deeper.
And you had your first graduation. How many were sort of graduated out of the process? Was it all 23, or was it?
The 23 are active. The other 22 now, they're still in the program. They're still working the program, still doing it. We just had the first person say, hey, you've done it well, you can go on. The other ones are still engaged.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm really excited to hear about it. It seems like a great opportunity. It's too bad more people aren't participating, but perhaps that will increase.
Yep.
Thank you.
I think we got capacity for like 75. So that's
great.
about, you can't do everybody, but about 75. And so we're under that. We got about room for more. So I'd like to get back to them.
Great. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Commissioner Ponstein?
Thank you, Chair. Welcome, Prosecutor Becker. Appreciate all your work. Across the nation, even in our town, there's a sector of crime that's rising. It's getting more and more organized, getting more and more daring. And this is the assault on our retail businesses. And it just seems to be never ending. And, you know, you'll hear of someone that's caught and then is back at it in a few days. Is there a strategy in the county or throughout the state on how this is going to eventually be resolved? Because, you know, the retail businesses that are struggling in the poorer parts of town are just going to go out of business, which doesn't serve any purpose.
You know, I guess twofold. One of the things we are trying to do is take a look at stronger charges, you know, versus, you know, basic retail fraud. Even a felony is a 5-year, but retail fraud doesn't carry any sort of, you know, prison sentence that's going to deter anybody. You know, it's maybe jail, probation. So we have been starting to, you know, charge CCE continuing criminal enterprise, which is a 20-year felony. So we've charged a number of those in terms of to get more teeth in for those, you know, chronic offenders that we see. We are seeing organized groups that are trying to steal and then go out and sell it. So we're charging that, and organized retail fraud is another little bit more serious one. So we are taking a look at those cases and charging those. You know, the other thing is I think there's, you know, bond is my concern right now in terms of people, you know, not seeing the types of bonds for the nonviolent offenses as they used to. So I think we've got to educate the judiciary and say, hey, this is not just, you know, somebody took, you know, $500 worth of stuff from a Meijer. He took $500 of that Meijer, $500 there, and really make sure the judges are aware of that. But the bonds are a little bit concerning in terms of the low nature of them, and we're not able to hold them. And I'm not advocating this saying everybody should be held, but there are certain people that should be. And I think with COVID, that was one of the concerns with the jail is, you know, we got to work on maintaining those levels because the sheriff was getting slammed outbreaks in the jail, and that was one of the concerns. Hopefully get away from that and convey. So judges are a little bit cognizant of, you know, these people's criminal histories and the impact they're having on the community. It's difficult because there has been a decision which, you know, if you look at the Department of Corrections, 75% of the Department of Corrections are violent offenders. You know, consistent, you know, actually gone up. It was 71 for a while, now it's 75. There's been, you look at the sentencing guidelines, they're saying violent offenders need to go to prison. The non-violent, like the retail frauds, it's harder to get them for a prison sentence, even though they may do it repeated offenders. It's harder to do it. Statewide issue.
Any other questions? I have a quick one. With COVID, a lot of things have changed, you know, that we do normally. And I know with the court system, there have been more virtual hearings, like on Zoom. How has your office handled that, and how, can you talk a little bit about the impacts of it in different cases that you've had?
It's been a lot of different. I mean, I think for certain things it's great in terms of your basic motions. You know, motion day, we used to go over, you know, we go over on Friday mornings for, you know, a 5-minute, you know, bond reduction hearing or something like that. A lot of times we may not, certain things we don't even care about. Some, you know, as an attorney. That's between the defendant and his attorney. We're not going to say, oh, I want that attorney on there. We don't do that. So for a 5-minute hearing, Zoom and stuff, that's very effective. The biggest impact we saw is during when it was in the pledges where we were virtual just about everything, cases were not resolving because people weren't taking it seriously. I mean, ask any judge, you know, somebody's in bed smoking with their pillow and they're appearing in court. They're the defendant and they're appearing in court. And I don't want to do anything. I mean, people in the shower, people out driving, you know, they're getting their oil changed in their car and stuff like that. So people just weren't taking it seriously. And, you know, the cases were not moving. Once we're in person and stuff like that, you know, people take it a little bit more seriously. They're in front of a judge, so that had a tremendous impact. But we're fully able to do Zoom hearings. The other biggest issue we had in terms of Zoom is when we were doing it and they're putting everything on YouTube. I mean, in December, there's a murder down. Found out about parking lot pimping. I found out about that. People after the bars go down to the parking lots, just hang out at 3 o'clock in the morning when we had a homicide down at the Rapid bus station. Well, we had the prelim, and the prelim was going out on on YouTube. And what were people doing? They're taking snapshots of the witnesses on YouTube, and then, hey, they're, snitching, they're doing all this. And so we're getting that which makes it difficult for victims, witnesses don't want to come in because all of a sudden it's being broadcast on YouTube. And that's consistent to a state prosecutor said, sex assaults. You've got a 9-year-old, and usually the camera will, go down, but how do you put a 9-year-old that's going to be testifying about how they're sexually abused, and now it may go on YouTube and somebody's recording it? So those are concerns we've had, and we've expressed those to Scale. Scale is kind of the opinion that, virtual everything is the next greatest thing since sliced bread. And we're saying, whoa, time out. There's some serious concerns on how that impacts the criminal justice system. So we're able to do it. We did a lot of Zoom stuff. It's not the greatest thing, but it's good for some things and bad for others.
Questions or comments? I think that's all that we have today. Thank you so much for your time and your report.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so our next item on the agenda is the Board of Commissioners appointments to various boards. And Commissioner McLeod and Commissioner Teal and I interviewed a number of applicants, and we found some really great applicants for the next two items. So Al, do you want to read the action
Sure.
request?
Yes. Action requested, recommend to the board. Bethany Fisk to the Lakeshore Regional Entity, LRE, Substance Abuse Oversight Policy Board to fill an unexpired 3-year term ending December 31, 2022, and Julie Sanford to the LRE Substance Abuse OPB to fill an unexpired 3-year term ending December 31, 2023, and to appoint Carolyn Johnson to the Agricultural Preservation Board as Conservation Representative to fill an unexpired 3-year term ending December 31, 2024. Midterm vacancies have occurred on the Lakeshore Regional Entity Substance Abuse Oversight Policy Board and the Agricultural Preservation Board. Solicitation took place to fill the vacant board positions. For the LRE Substance Abuse Oversight Policy Board vacancy, an interview team consisting of Commissioners Emily Breavy, Chair, Lindsay Thiel, and Michelle McLeod reviewed applications. It is recommended that the Board of Commissioners appoint Bethany Fisk for a 3-year term expiring December 31, 2022, and Julie Sanford for a 3-year term expiring December 31, 2023, to the LRE Substance Abuse OPB. For the Agricultural Preservation Board vacancy, an interview team consisting of Commissioners Emily Breavy, Chair, Lindsay Thiel, and Michelle McLeod reviewed applications. It is recommended that the Board of Commissioners appoint Carolyn Johnson for a 3-year term expiring December 31, 2024, to the Agricultural Preservation Board. The interview teams are recommending the appointments of the candidates noted above.
All right, thanks, Al. Is there a motion to approve this action request? Moved by Commissioner McLeod, support by Commissioner Teal. All right, any questions or comments regarding these items? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. So our next item, also additional appointments from the Board of Commissioners.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to appoint Jeffrey Arnson to Friend of the Court Citizens Advisory Committee to fill an unexpired 3-year term ending December 31, 2024, to appoint Maureen Kirkwood to the Kent County Family and Children's Coordinating Council, the KFCCC, to fill an unexpired 3-year term ending December 31, 2022, Kristen Geetson to KFCCC to fill an unexpired 3-year term ending December 31, 2024, and Mary Millette to the KFCCC to fill an unexpired 3-year term ending December 31, 2024, and to appoint Heather Gritt to the Housing Commission to fill an unexpired 5-year term ending December 31, 2026. Midterm vacancies have occurred on the Friend of the Court Citizens Advisory Committee, the KCF-CCC, and the Housing Commission. Solicitation took place to fill the vacant positions. For the Friend of the Court Citizens Advisory vacancy, an interview team consisting of Commissioners Emily Breavy, Chair, Lindsay Thiel, and Michelle McLeod reviewed applications. It is recommended that the Board of Commissioners appoint Jeffrey Arnson for a 3-year term expiring December 31, 2024, to the Friend of the Court Citizens Advisory Committee. For the KCF-CCC vacancy, an interview team consisting of Commissioners Emily Breavy, Chair, Lindsay Thiel, and Michelle McLeod reviewed applications. It is recommended by the Board of Commissioners to appoint Maureen Kirkwood for a 3-year term expiring December 31, 2022, Kristen Geetson for a 3-year term expiring December 31, 2024, and Mary Millette for a 3-year term expiring December 31, 2024 to the KCF-CCC. For the Housing Commission vacancy, an interview team, again consisting of Commissioners Emily Breavy, Chair, Lindsay Thiel, and Michelle McLeod, reviewed applications. It is recommended that the Board of Commissioners appoint Heather Gritt for a 5-year term expiring December 31, 2026 to the Housing Commission. The interview teams are recommending the appointments of the candidates noted above.
All right, thanks, Sal. Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Teal. Is there support? Support by Commissioner LeGrand. All right, any questions or comments on these appointments? Yes.
Wondering, do we still have vacancies on any of our boards, or does this fill us all up?
We do still have vacancies, and I believe, was it last week? I think Lisa sent out in our weekly email a list of some of the vacancies. There's a couple positions that we had to repost. We just didn't get applicants that qualified. So, I think what we can do within our communities, look at the openings, and if we know of people, say, hey, maybe you should consider applying for this. And I think there's usually quite a few applicants. It just, midterm, it's kind of tricky sometimes. So, and some of the positions are fairly specific too on the type of applicant needed to fill that role. So, but yeah, we can get some more information out if you have any questions. So, any other questions regarding these? All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. That brings us to our last item on the agenda here. Miscellaneous. Is there any commissioner miscellaneous at all? Any questions or comments? None? All right. Our meeting is adjourned, and we'll see you on April 26th at 8:30 a.m. Have a wonderful week.